Am I on now, Ruth?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for being here this morning or this afternoon. I do want to begin by sharing with everyone. I just noticed my voice is trying to leave me, and I've been very allergic the last few days. So if I actually have to turn my camera off, it's just to take care of things and I will continue to talk. So I apologize for that. I want to welcome you to the 7 virtual etiquette rules every professional should know and use. I believe that what I'm going to cover with you today, you already know, or you currently are using them because I'm looking at some of your backgrounds before that got minimized. I saw a few of your backgrounds and they look awesome. So some of you are already doing these things. It's nothing new. It's just a matter of being consistent and using them each and every day so that they become second nature and we don't have to think about it anymore. I will take questions all throughout the presentation, so feel free to ask me. My name is Miss Cynthia and let's get to it. Well, Root, oh, there we go. Sometimes this button seems to not want to work with me. I want to I want to encourage all of you to participate today. There are going to be opportunities for you to participate so your name can get answered into a drawing and you have a chance to win what I think is a really cool prize at the end of the presentation. So go ahead and drop things in the chat box so you can one participation gets you one name in the drawing. It doesn't matter how many times you participate, we're going to put your name in once. So I better tell the rules about that. All right, so let's begin. We are well into, oh my gosh, it's a little bit over a year and a half that we've been living in the world we're currently living in. So we're in a virtual world. Most of you are working from home. Some of you may be working from home more than you ever have. Some of you, this may be your first time getting to work from home. So we've each had to make pivots and shifts. Those of you who are entrepreneurs and have your own companies, probably in the last year, you've had to make some serious shifts. You know, your business models change. Maybe your strategies have changed. For those of you working for employers, they've had to do the same. So in the last year, people have gone from a face-to-face interaction or social interaction to more of a virtual one. And believe it or not, the same rules that we had to follow in our physical world are the same rules that we're going to follow in the virtual one. So hopefully people have made that shift rather smoothly. Some people are still in the midst of doing it. And again, what I'm going to share today isn't rocket science. It really is common sense, and a lot of you are probably using it. But I did want to take a moment just to go over and recognize that each person is in um, their own on the continuum of making that complete shift. You're all at different places. So you may find what it is that I am sharing today useful. I thought I would begin the session today with this great story because I think it's a great example and it really, really helps people to understand or get a better understanding of what this whole shift looked like and what it felt like and where actually we are in the world right now. Now, I don't know how many of you have seen the movie. This came out quite a while ago, but saw the movie The King's Speech. I haven't seen it. I know the story behind it, very interesting, and it's on my list of movies to catch up with to see. I wanted to just share the story briefly, just to kind of set for us what the rest of our time together is, and just again, to really describe what world we're in right now. Now, for those that don't know, the King's Speech is about King George V, and I'm moving a bar so I can read my own screen. It's about King George V. Now, for those that may not know, King George V ended up becoming the King of England. However, he was not groomed to do so. He actually became that having to ascend the throne because his brother, who was in line for the throne, decided that he would much rather spend his life with the woman he loved, who was an American divorcee, which was risky at the time. So we're talking about 100 years ago, a little less. He no longer wanted to be king. He wanted to go and live his life with his love, which left King George V to fill his shoes. Now, King George was not groomed for that role. His whole life was not taken to prepare him for such a title. And in addition to that, he had a speech impediment. So he had somewhat of a stutter, and he had a coach who helped him through all of that to help him to deliver his speeches. So let's think, we've got a king who was not prepared to be one. We have one that has a speech impediment and is at the era of the changing of an era, going from presenting speeches in a physical world to now presenting and delivering speeches in a wireless world. So all of that was going on for King George. It has to have been a stressful time for his life. And what I especially like about this story is really this quote on the screen: the wireless will play a significant part in the royal family, allowing them to enter the homes of people. And that's actually where we are now. I was really intrigued that King George used the word wireless during that time. But what he did do, even though he had all of the challenges, and some of us have the same challenges, we may be a little anxious having to be on camera, we may be a little anxious having to deliver with these new kinds of tools. And so King George did that. And even though he was anxious and he had challenges, he did that well and ended up being very great at it. Story is very much like what we're going through today. Some of you may feel a little anxious speaking on camera. Some of you are going from a physical world into this virtual one. And it is really the dawning of a new era. It is a different way for us to be with each other and specifically to do business. So I thought I would share that story just to kind of give you an idea of where we've been and where we currently are in the world and what things may look like for us in the future. For some reason, my slides aren't moving forward as quickly as they usually do, so I'm going to ask you to bear with me. Now, given the story I just shared and your thoughts that were going through your head as I shared it, how many of you currently feel like King George? You're a little anxious. You're not so comfortable on video. Perhaps you don't feel that your words come out as well as they should, or you're thinking well on your feet. How many of you feel like King George, or who used to a year ago and now you've kind of mastered those skills so you don't feel like him anymore? Ruth, I'm going to leave it to you to let me know if people are responding. Now, I wanted to go over some stats, go over some more information, and then we're going to get deep into the actual etiquette pieces. There's three
So
sets.
Kyle said, when I lack preparation, I feel this way.
Yeah, yeah.
Someone else said, I always feel like this.
Okay. Preparation is key. Yes, I agree with that. Some people, the person who said they always feel like that, that is true as well. It's funny, I do this, and for a living, I used to be in front of groups of physical people, but the stage fright is always there, and then something clicks, and then you kind of naturally go into it and feel a little bit better. But yes, it can be awkward at times. So practice is key. Anything else before I go into my first step? Alrighty then. So let's talk about working from home. So that's the first statistic I'd like to share with you. Currently, so that's like today, 58% of the total workforce here in the US are working remotely. So that is huge. That's 58%. This number actually was a lot smaller last year. When I delivered this presentation, it was 20, I want to say 25%, but the number was much smaller. So that number is growing and growing. And we're probably working towards a few years from now where maybe 90% of people are going to be working from their homes. The second piece of information that I wanted to share with you are the number of people who now want to work remotely. Now that they've had a taste of it and they've had time to kind of adjust to it in this last year, a lot of people really want to work some part of their time from home. So currently 99% of people who would rather choose to work remotely for the rest of their work life. Now, how does that help companies? Because there's also a financial benefit for this. $11,000 is about how much companies are able to save for each employee who works from home part-time. So we're talking about huge savings. We're talking about people who are happy because they're working from home. And so productivity increases. So that's another interesting statistic. The third one I'd like to share with you has to do with people being distracted. Now, while we've been in this world for a little over a year, we still see people distracted, and even ourselves at times are probably guilty of doing something on the side when we're supposed to be listening. I know, I'll be honest, Miss Cynthia does that too sometimes, but as long as you do it nicely and respectfully, you can get away with it. But the truth is, we are distracted. If you take a look at this slide on the right-hand side, you're going to take a look at what are all the other things that people are doing when they're on a Zoom call, whether they're physically seen, or if you have your camera on, or if you have your camera off. Now, these statistics really were specific to what people were doing during a conference call, but a Zoom call is a conference call with a screen. So this gives you an idea of what people are doing. Now, 65% of people that are on a call like this or in a meeting like this are actually distracted or doing other work. So they're reading their text, they're looking at their social media accounts, perhaps they're drafting an email, so they're doing other things. So that's the third statistic that I wanted to share with you. What I think is critical about this one is when people miss information, that's when mistakes can occur, or an opportunity for you to get information that will help propel you to the next thing that you need to do or the next level. So when people are distracted, they're not taking information in as well as they should, which means they may not be as effective or efficient in doing what it is that they need to do. So that's just one thing to consider, especially if you are a person who's running business and have employees who are doing other things, something to think about. All right, so this is what it is. This is what it has been, and this is what it's going to be, that working from home is here to stay. What that looks like ultimately, we'll wait to see, but certainly the percentage is growing month by month by month. And so we are going into this world. And because we're going into this world, there are a few things that we're going to need to learn how to do well and be consistent in it. And that's what I'm going to get to in a minute.
Cynthia, so
Yes,
we had a couple of comments.
oh, sorry.
That's all right. Lorena said that she finds it a lot more draining to do a Zoom interaction. And I was commenting, yeah, because there's a lot more work involved to communicate with people. And then,
Yeah.
and then there's the technology stuff on top of that. And then Kyle was like, well, how do we rein people back into the conversations? Keep them engaged.
Those are good comments and a good question. So to address the comments, absolutely. This is draining for the three biggest reasons. Number one, if you're not used to the technology, which really are your new tools, because if you think about this as tools, these are the tools that will help you be successful. But they're still tools and they're still draining to us until we get to a point where we can master them. The other piece about Zoom being so draining, if you are not an auditory learner, if listening for long periods of time and sitting still is a challenge, and I'm going to tell you it is for Miss Cynthia, probably have a little ADD, and I am not a good listener. I have to get 100% of my physical attention to what is happening. That is draining. So for the person that's saying it's draining, I understand it, and you're absolutely right, which is why it's gentle for us to be in mind, and I'm going to go over this a little bit later, to make sure that your meetings are being held for a length of time that is needed. Meetings don't have to be an hour. If it could be 10 minutes, they could be 20 minutes, they could be 15. So that's one of the things that we each need to kind of consider if we're the ones running a meeting or hosting a meeting. Really be aware of how long you're doing it and prepare the people long before they get to the screen so they have the information they have. They kind of are coming prepared, and it takes a less amount of time for you to get through that meeting or get through those ideas. So those are some of the things that people can do to help those of us that really get drained doing this particular meeting this particular way. Reining people in. What you will learn to do, and I'm trying to do, and hopefully I'm doing a good job with it, I do try to I use my voice as a way to get attention. So I may use my voice regularly. Today is not cooperating with me because it's a little sore, but you may speak a little louder or accentuate things or get a little closer to the screen to make a point. And you kind of use those things to kind of get people's attention again and to rein them back in. I don't know if there were any questions, but I hope I answered those in a way that makes sense. This does take work. It does take work. And over time, it gets a little easier, and I find myself having to get more sleep or actually I'll take a little cat nap during the day because it is a draining process.
Yeah, and it's also people do seem to talk kind of fast sometimes when they're online. So
Yes,
you really have to listen closely.
you
Yeah.
do.
I mean, there's just a lot going on there, more than you would think.
Well, and here are the other two things. When we're in a physical room, we're not looking at each other face to face. Right now, look at the distance I am from you. I'm in your face and you're in other people's face, which means we have to hone in and we have to be present and we have to be aware. And even if we're not, we have to look it, and that takes effort as well. So we're only about 16 inches away from each other. So that's stressor number one. And stressor number two, we're on. There's no taking a break. If I take a break to look over here, you're watching me take a break over here and you're thinking, what is she doing over there? I'm right here. So that's the other thing. We have to be right here and give all of our time to it. That is draining. And we're worrying sometimes about what's going on behind us, especially for those that have children who are learning from home. And sometimes activity happens. So there's so much going on that is just draining us and draining our attention. So let me ask you this question. What percentage of your work week takes place from home? I'd be interested in finding that out. You could either say it in days or hours, but I'm curious to know how much of your work week now are you working from home? Mine is every day.
I
It
have
has been,
175, 100, 100.
wow, 100. That's a lot.
Well, some of us are entrepreneurs, so we have
Yeah.
and some people are just
For
they have
those
remote
making the
jobs.
shift,
They're home. Yep.
for those making the shift from an office setting to a home setting, it takes a little bit longer than those
Yep.
that have been working from home all along. But you'll make that shift, and over time, it becomes secondary. But I
Yeah.
do appreciate those
Somebody's
people.
transitioning from. We'll be working 2 days a week from home beginning next week.
All right, is that your preferred style? Is that a good thing for you? I'm
Is
curious to
this
find.
who the person who said that? You want to speak up and say what's going on with that?
Is that a good? Are you happy about that?
Yeah, I work for a school district. So we were
Wow.
working from home for a year and a half,
Yeah.
and we were called in on July 6th to work every day. But our superintendent decided which departments were allowed to do telework.
Mm.
And you could decide to work 4 days a week from home or not at all. So I chose for my department to work 3 days in the office and 2 days at home.
That is. And are you liking that? Well, you don't know yet. You're just beginning.
I wanted to make sure we had a presence and that
Yes.
not, when you're not visible, your space, your office, everything kind of goes over to something else. And I wanted to show that we still had a presence. So,
Which
that's,
is good.
yeah.
Well, and then that adds not so much stress, but now you're in two worlds. So you're at the home world, which has to look and operate a certain way, and then you're re-engaging into your physical world, and there's a way for you to do that. It's been difficult for educators. I teach etiquette to students, and it's difficult to do it this way. And so it'll be interesting to see how that works for you. But I'm wishing you well, because there are a lot of people now who are actually having part of their work week. I'm hearing a lot of people have 2 days a week now where they're working from home, such as yourself, and working in physical world like 3 days out of the week. And it'll be interesting to see how that works out.
Thank you.
Oh, good. Thank you for sharing. Okay, I don't have a clock, Miss Ruth, though. I'm going to keep it going because I'll
It's
sit and
12.
talk,
It's
but I
twelve
could
twenty
talk
two.
forever. Okay.
12:22.
Okay, so I better move it along. Continue to ask your questions because I really want to answer them. So here's what you're going to get. I'm finally going to get to the meat of it. I'm going to help you to learn how to set up your virtual staging if you don't already know that. We're going to go over the 7 virtual meeting etiquette rules. There's nothing new, it's common sense. You probably know them. Again, it's consistency that makes it key. And the third thing, I have the answer on how you can handle any problem that arises during your virtual meeting. So here we go. Let's first talk about setting up a stage. Now, these are some of the things that you're going to need to have the perfect stage. I like this picture because this is a great example of what that looks like. This gentleman has behind him a bookcase of books, and there was one woman, two women, I think, that I saw um, before the I can't find my words right now. Before Ruth minimized all of our squares, our tiles, I did see two women who had beautiful bookshelves as their background with books in them. And so what's nice about this is he has a nice, clean, everything in its place setting. So if we're looking at his background, it's appealing. The other part of this is that his setup and how people are going to see him is great. He's got his laptop elevated at a place that's going to let him interact with you in a good way. He has a lighting source on either side of him, so his face is lit so that you're paying attention and that he's connected to you. So this would be an ideal way. Each person is going to do it the way that feels best for them, but this is a great example of how you're going to set your stage up. So if you currently aren't doing this, this is something for you to consider. Now, how do you do that? I'm going to show you the tools you'll need to set it up. But before I do, I want to really explain why this matters. I want you to take a look at this young lady. For those that don't have a setup as in the gentleman did in the picture, we tend to look and show up like the woman on the left-hand side of the picture. She is not at eye level with her audience, and there's no noticeable lighting source on her. So we don't get to see how pretty she is. We don't get to see her face. We don't get to see her features, which really becomes challenging when we talk about interaction. I think Kyle asked about how do we keep people engaged? This is a really great example of how. If we set up our place as the gentleman did in the picture, we look like the woman on the right. So now her laptop or her PC is at a level that is eye level to the audience. She has a lighting source, and now we can see her features. Now we're more likely to interact with her and to stay present because we can see her and we are relatable. It almost feels like we're in the room with her. So that's why creating a lit and a laptop that's at eye level, why it's important, because we want to show up to the right. That way people will stay engaged, they will listen, it will help us to retain information, especially when we're tired, and it just makes it a little bit easier. Now, here are the tools that you'll need if you don't have them already that will help you to create that space. Again, I want you to look at the young lady in this picture. She's in a kitchen. Her kitchen is awesome, and she has everything in its place. And it's an excellent background. So you can be in your kitchen. You could be anywhere you'd like to be. As long as your background is nicely put together and everything is in its place and there's space, there's no reason why you can't be wherever you'd like to be. In order to create this feel and this scene, you'll need to have these tools. You'll need a camera, a microphone. You can have a headset with a microphone. That works easier for some because they don't have to worry about doing anything. Everything is right here, and all you have to do is talk. Lighting is always important. I have a light on me right now, and you can get these ring lights at different sizes, shapes, and they can go up and down. And so that just helps you show up a little bit more, and people can see your face and they can engage with you. For those that do this a long time, and actually I'd be interested in finding out for each of you, how many of you actually have a production assistant or a helper who kind of helps you manage your Zoom meetings or your Zoom or webinars? Some of you may actually do webinars as part of your business. Today, luckily, Ruth asked me to come on, so she's a production assistant for everyone, but it's always good to have someone who can monitor the chat box, let people in and out, deal with any issues that may arise. So these now are the new tools that we're all learning how to use and to use well so that we show up properly, that we keep people engaged, that people want to remember us and they want to hear us again and again and again. So let's talk about some more pieces of staging. Staging is really interesting. It could really be a variety of things. The other piece of staging that you probably have seen are people who have virtual backgrounds. And virtual backgrounds are really cool because people get really creative, and they can just show up anywhere. They could be at Disney, they could be on the beach as in this one, they could be in someone's living room. I've seen some really nice virtual backgrounds. Here is the key thing about virtual backgrounds. You want to make sure you get one that's high definition. So a really nice one And you want to make sure that you place it on a green background. So you need a green screen. And that way the image is crisp and clear, but it stays together. And then you, who are showing up in front of your screen, stays together. And when I mean stay together, that you won't depixel and all of a sudden go from a human looking to all of a sudden you're made up of all these little squares. And so that's the one thing that you definitely want to think about. Make sure that you have an awesome high definition picture, but that you are placing it on a green screen. I don't use virtual backgrounds because that's one less thing I have to learn. And I try to keep my world simple. But if you're doing it, those are some things that you want to have in mind. If you get a really great one, like this one on the screen, if my face were the dotted white spaces, I actually could look like I was on a beach. So that just gives you an example of how clear it is and the quality of it really. So that's what it is you're going after if you decide to use a virtual background.
And I decided to go ahead. Some of you probably, I think you can all still see me. I've got the screen and I just got it from like wayfair.com and had it delivered to my house. And I like it because it really, it hides the rest of my room too.
Mhm.
So I can just open it up for a meeting or, Zoom, and there I am. So, yeah.
And it's set up all the time too. That's another challenge. You have to reset up for me. I'm in the dining room right now, but I have to come in here and set things up each time because I may be in a different room in the house for a different type of meeting. So you're lucky, Ruth, that you've got it set up all the time and you can come and go, and that makes things a lot easier as well.
Yeah, but this puppy's six panel, so finding a place to put it when it's closed is kind of a challenge.
And a lot, just have a wall of panels.
Ugh.
Now, I want to go into some other things about staging. There's something called the rule of three. I don't know if you've heard about the rule of three, but there are three things that you want to do, and you want to group your things also in groups of three. So let's take a look at this picture, and we're going to talk about the rule of threes. There are only a couple of shapes that are represented in this picture. We have cylinders, rectangles, and kind of ovals. They're different sizes. So there are about 2 to 3 sizes of the shapes of the things that are in this picture. And you'll also notice the third thing, that each thing are at different heights. So they're giving depth and dimension to the picture or to the background. Now, the one thing that's really in your face, but because of the way it's done, it's muted, is we have that Tiffany blue background. I like that because that's in my logo colors. I think it's an awesome color. Even though it's bright, because of what is in front of it, it kind of mutes that color or that brightness a little bit and tones it down. So let me just point out a couple of things here just to really go over what the rule of three is. If you notice, we talked about shapes. So we have rectangles in one of the, you'll see the books. They're books in here. Those are your rectangles or squares. And actually each piece of this furniture is a square. You are looking at circles, so you can see those little lollipop looking plants. So that's the second shape. You've got some circles in there. You have rectangles, and then the 3 vases on the right lower side of the screen, those 3 really big ceramic jars, those are ovals. So that's another shape. So you only have a couple of shapes. We don't have like 5 or 6. You just want to have a couple of basic shapes. Also the sizes. You have shapes of the jars or the ceramic vases that are large. You have some that are smaller. You have the lamp that's small. You have plants that are shorter or smaller, and some that are larger. So the sizes and shapes of things are varied, but not so varied that it's busy. The third thing are the heights. So the height of things, you have things that are short. So look at the plants in the planters. Those are at a low level. And then you have the lollipops that are in a high one. And some of those plants look high. On the bottom left-hand side of the shelving, you have 3 glass jars that are holding a single plant in them. So things are at varying heights. The other thing I do want to point out are the colors. You have organic colors. So we have beiges, creams, and greens. Those work well together. They're very organic and help to mute that potentially loud background color. You also, if you're looking at fabrics, we have basket, we have woven things. The chair looks like it could be linen. There's linen coming out of the basket on the chair. So all of this is organic. The colors, the items, the shapes, the sizes, all of them work well together. And if you notice, they are in groups of threes. And so when you are creating your background and you have things on your shelves, you want to kind of keep things in groups of threes. It keeps things clean, it gives it interest, it makes it look nice, but not so much that it's distracting and that people are paying more attention to it than to you. So that's the rule of three. And some of you, I got a chance to see your backgrounds, are already doing this and it looks really nice. So now, up until now, we've seen a couple of pictures. We talked about a little things. We're looking at a different way to show up in front of our audience. What is one thing that you now want to do in order to level up your staging? Could you take a moment to drop that into the box? I'd be curious to know what people want to do moving forward. And keep in mind, simple and easy is best. If you just have a color wall behind you and you wear whatever it is you'd like to wear, that's simple, but it's clean and it's pure, and then the people are connected to you. Ruth, are there any shares? If not, I can move on.
You're on mute, Ruth.
Oh,
I was saying I jokingly said move to a better house, but
oh,
we also have better backgrounds,
oh
more
yes.
consistent lighting.
Mm,
We also had ambient noise. Have people silence ambient noise.
okay.
That can be a problem, I've noticed in a lot of
Yes.
schools.
We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah. Did I miss somebody here? I just chime in if I
Thank,
missed you. But
well,
yeah,
thank you. So you're thinking about it and you wanted to make those changes, so that's great. Okay, I'm going to go to the next. So now we get to the rules. And remember, these rules are nothing new. These are things that you know. Again, the key is being consistent. So let's take a look at them. Number one, respect people's time. When we're having virtual meetings, what I have been experiencing will be interesting to see if you are too. People don't always show up on time. And sometimes we don't end, we don't do hard stops. I know for me, I don't have a clock in front of me. So I tend to talk a little faster
it's
because I don't want,
12:35, by the way.
oh, okay, because I don't want to go overtime. But remember, if we are the ones hosting a meeting or hosting a training, we want to begin on time and we want to end on time because people have other things that they need to do. So respecting people's time is key. Rule number two, use the best communication method. Now, this is a rule we follow more in the physical world. We have to differentiate between a phone call, a text, an email, or a Zoom meeting. So we really have to be discriminatory in which method we're going to select. So we just want to make sure that we are using the right communication method for the right message. So everything doesn't have to be a Zoom meeting. Everything doesn't have to be a Zoom call. And here is what I find a really interesting phenomena. People all of a sudden have forgotten that we have phones, that you can still have a conference call on a phone, that's not a bad thing. All of a sudden, people just feel like every communication has to occur via Zoom, and that really isn't the case. So how many of you actually feel like Jackie Chan does in this picture? How many of you have attended a meeting that really could have been an email? I do want to hear the results of that one. Because that's something that we have to think about. And remember, a meeting doesn't have to be 60 minutes. It could be 30 minutes. It could be 20 minutes. Using people's time in the best way is always best. And also, it will make them want to come to your meetings. So if I give you the information I want you to look at before I meet with you, and if I deliver it in the way that that is actually your preferred style, when you come to the meeting, it can be shorter because we can get right to the information at hand, make the decisions that need to be made, and then people are off the call. That is going to increase the likelihood of people wanting to come to meetings. So if it's well organized and everything's efficient and effective, people will come. Ruth, did anyone share that they pretty much are feeling like Jackie Chan, that
Yes.
they were in a meeting that could have been an email or a text. Okay.
Yeah. So TP said, yes, that happens a lot.
A lot.
And
Oh,
Russ said that if there's no feedback or interaction from anybody, then you may as well just have done an email. Because like, what's the point of getting together? You know?
true, true, true. Okay. This is good to know. I always like to keep track of these things. So
If I
the
may
method
speak
we
to,
so
Go ahead.
oh, say again.
yeah, I think for me, it's whenever it's more of a lecture style,
Mhm.
instead of an engaging conversation between a team. Like that's a time where I feel like, well, you were just trying to give me information. You could have easily done that in an email form.
Exactly true. If it is a data dump, you can do that. You do want to make the virtual world more engaging, and there's challenges with that, but there are ways to do it again using the voice, having visuals, having it interactive, having people answer questions, having work groups deliver, or having different people deliver. You don't have to always be the one delivering all the content or the information. It could be partnered with someone else doing it. So now you've got two personalities. Now you have two voices. Now you have people with different energy levels, and that makes it more engaging. Absolutely.
Someone TP just said that um, text is much better.
Yes. For those that text,
Some
but I
people
think
process that a lot better. But what I like about this platform is that it gives you really everything. You do have chat, and you can talk, and you get to see something all at the same time if you're engaged enough.
what this that is true. I'm thinking about the different ways that people take in information. You've got the introvert extrovert. For introverts, this is challenging because they have to sit and they're participating in an extroverted activity.
Mhm.
Extroverts love this because this is what they do. I'm a way off the chart extrovert,
Me
but you do
too.
have to be aware of the introverts who need time to take this in, but they need quiet time to process it. And so it's a challenge with this, but you have to find ways to meet those different learning styles, but also how people process information, which is why it's always good to give information before, like a few days before a meeting. That gives introverts time to have quiet time to take some information in, but it also makes the time that you're together quick. But it should be engaging. We have to find ways to make it engaging and to meet people's specific needs. Those are great comments. Thank you. No, no food, no drink, no smoke. This is real. I've seen this a lot. I tend to share with people that you want to eat and have your beverages before you meet or after you meet. If it is a work meeting, then it's understandable that people will meet. I don't think my camera's on, but remember, we're only 16 inches. I'm in your face. So I'm only 16 inches away from you. Am I on? Can you guys see me if I put my video on?
No, I have to
Okay, that's
block.
okay. Well, the next time you are on a call where people can see each other, keep in mind we're 16 inches, maybe a foot away from each other. If I have a mug or food or I'm doing something, it really is in your face, extremely distracting. So smoking and eating and drinking are things you want to happen before or after your meetings. If it's a work meeting, you want to turn your camera off as you're eating or drinking, because movement within the view of each other is distracting, and people start to hone in on that and watch what's going on, and they're missing out on information. Now, I did sit at a meeting. This was a shareholders meeting, actually, a corporate shareholders board meeting. And I had a woman that Cynthia got distracted. And this is a perfect example. She was eating on screen. She had a bowl of something. I saw every single forkful go into her mouth. I saw her enjoy it, which was fine, but I couldn't look away. I couldn't look away because her camera was on. And so I had to find another thing to look, but I actually went down the rabbit hole with her. So she ate and she was drinking, but it was so close to the screen, it was as if I was in the room right in front of her. After she ate it, she then proceeded to light up a cigarette. And I tell you, I could smell the smoke through my screen. So that's why you don't want to eat or drink or smoke on camera. it really does feel like the person is in front of you, but it's extremely distracting, and that people can not pay attention to what it is that they need to do. But also, the other thing that I want to bring up, and this is the other side of our whole virtual world, it also lets people see who we are, what our level of professionalism is, how we show up, how we interact, and it helps people to create a perception of how they think our work is or our work ethic. So, how we show up virtually really has a lot to do with how people are going to perceive the quality of our work or even our ability to deliver what we say that we can deliver. So that's the other piece. I'm not going into that piece today, but I do want people to be aware of that. This is an opportunity to leave an impression. This is an opportunity to influence others. This is an opportunity to gain a new client. And this is an opportunity to get people to see us at our best. So no food, no drink, no smoke.
Yeah, I totally agree. And Lorena said that her workplace went way overboard. What were they,
Oh,
Lorena, were
what?
they allowing everybody to just do whatever they wanted on camera?
Uh-oh, sorry, I'm going back.
It wasn't that so much. I'm a little slow on the draw.
That's okay.
It grew to a point where nobody wanted to be brave enough to just have a conference call or just set it up by text. Everything had to be face, face, face. So that just was crazy in its own right. And
Right.
it opened up the opportunity to view a lot of these behaviors that Cynthia's talking about now.
And it's learning. In the beginning, we were all learning, so we were making mistakes. We're well into it where the mistakes should not be as often, if at all. But yeah, in the beginning of everything, we kind of have to wait our way through it. But remember, when we're on camera, we're on. And just like with King George V, he started to speak into the mic and enter the rooms of everyone in the world. That's the power of the camera that's in front of you right now. You are now entering my home. I'm entering your homes, your offices. And with that comes my influence and my ability to try to be memorable for you, but for the right reasons. So that's the other thing to share. Thank you for that. Hopefully we're all pros now. Hopefully we're all pros now. So we're not
Well,
seeing those anymore.
I want to know what you think about people coming into a conference call where, you know, people are expected to weigh in and stuff, and they never turn their camera on.
Okay. Good question. Good question. I have an answer. Early in the presentation, remember I shared that this, maybe I didn't, maybe I just shared that with you, Ruth, in our one-on-one before the call. The same rules that we follow in our physical environment are the same rules we follow in the virtual one. So the things that I do in a physical meeting and the rules and protocols I follow are going to be the same virtually. So when we talk about turning cameras on and off, when we're in a meeting in a room, we are visible and we're present and we're physically there. Generally, people don't just get up and walk out and decide they don't want to be seen anymore. So what I share with people is when you're on a meeting that's virtual, you need to have your camera on so that you are engaging, that people see that you're present, and to even see that people are there. Sometimes people turn their videos off and disappear, and you really won't know it. If you've got everyone with the cameras off, to the gentleman's point earlier, I think that, I don't remember who made the point that it could just be an email. There's no reason to meet. So cameras should always be on unless the presenter or the host determines that everyone's camera is off, but there's interaction. So people can ask questions and there's give and take.
Right.
So
Right.
that's how I explain that. The food situation is a little different because if we were physically in a room together, me drinking coffee or eating isn't as distracting because we're not in each other's face. We're sitting side by side or across a table. In the virtual world, everything is more exaggerated because it takes place within a small space.
Yeah, that's what Ben was just saying a minute ago. Yeah.
Okay. How about this one, friends? How about the body language you've seen? There are times we look like the gentleman in the picture, which is okay if your camera's off. But if it's on, you know, it's okay to gaze out. There are times I gaze out because I'll see a bird, you know, oh, look, a bird over there. Oh, look, a chipmunk ran by. And then I'll say, okay, Miss Cynthia, you gotta focus. And so I have to look back at the camera. But body language matters because we're communicating. And when we have a choice to choose between what the words that are coming out of someone's mouth or the body language that they're showing us, which are we generally going to go with? We're going to go with the body language. That's the telltale about what really is going on with someone. That gets exaggerated now that we're in line with a camera that's in each of our faces. So people are seeing that and it's showing up even more. So here's some things to think about body language. We always want to think about posture in a chair, kind of like at a dinner table when I'm teaching manners. Posture, our chin up, shoulders back, and we're sitting erect. That gives the illusion, and sometimes it is an illusion. I'll be honest, sometimes people aren't listening, and that happens, but you still should look as if you are. So our posture in the chair is important because it shows people that we're engaged, we're respectful of what it is that they're presenting, even though at times you're screaming in your mind and crying. You can't let that show in the physical world. So, and there are times we're all screaming in our minds. But posture is key because it presents us as if we're engaged. Eyebrows, I don't think raising eyebrows is a bad thing, but it does give information. So remember, every gesture, every facial expression, every positioning of our body gives off information. Eye contact. So when I talk about eye contact means you're looking into the camera. Now, for some, it's stressful because that's a different thing. I'm looking at this thing and people are seeing me, but I can't see them. It gets a little stressful to be seen, but you can't see others. But that's how you maintain eye contact. And that's why it's important when you're staging, you have your PC or your laptop at eye level or the camera at eye level. So when you are looking and engaging, you have eye contact. Lips can get really, I call them tightly or tight-lipped, or they're like pursed. That's almost kind of like you just you just sucked on a really sour lemon and your lips do that thing. When you do think, beware, be aware of your facial expressions, your eyes squinting and your lips going, woo, because people are looking at that and it's giving information. Resting your cheek on the palm as this gentleman does, it's pretty obvious what he's feeling. We don't want to do that. And how about when you hear some information you're not a fan of and your face quickly it's about to make an ugly face, but then you say, no, 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 I can't do that. And then you kind of break out into a smile. That looks very awkward. And chances are people caught it. So when it comes to body language, remember, people are always going to believe what your body tells them as opposed to the words coming out of your mouth. Our body gives telltales. They are best because we feel faster than we think. Humans feel faster, and so their body reacts faster. Then your mind will say not to do that thing. And so that's why our body is always what people use in order to size us up to get an idea of where we are or what we're thinking or what we're feeling. So there's a whole lot more that are on the list. These things come up the most often. Head tilted to the side. People take in information differently, and I find myself and be interested to see if any of you do this. When I'm taking information in, I turn my head to a side, almost like your dog does. For those of you that have dogs and you say certain things or make certain sounds, they turn their head to the side as if to try to understand. When I'm thinking, I do that. Some may look at that as someone's just in another world. It could be that they're really taking in information and they physically have to be in a certain stance that kind of helps them to do that. So that's another thing I thought I'd point out to you.
And Lorena just chimed in, using the proper chair helps posture and facial expressions. The first few months of working from home, she cobbled herself into the dining room in a chair all day, like kind of just like, and buying a proper chair was a game changer for her. I bet you had a backache, didn't you? Those chairs are horrible.
Yeah, sometimes I don't, yeah, sometimes I would say the harder the chair, the easier, like wooden chairs. I don't know if that will work better for you. I know it works for me because it makes me aware of my posture, but it won't get me so comfortable that I start to slouch or lean all the way back.
Yeah. I actually have under my desk, I've got like a stool. I have my legs up on it.
That helps. Yeah.
I
Actually,
find
that
I'm
helps.
comfortable sitting like this.
And I just was going to share something with you and with you guys, and it went out of my mind, but hopefully it'll come back. It had to do with body language, but I can't I can't remember what it is, but perhaps it'll come back. I find that happening with myself as well. So rule number 5, I would imagine you guys have mastered this, being able to use features on your laptop if you're Zoom. I Zoom because that's the platform it seems that most people use, but I actually do webinars, so I use a whole different platform, but they tend to be similar in some respects. But it is great to learn how to use the features. So this actual picture is a picture of what a Zoom meeting would look like. And for those, if you already know this, bear with me, some may still be learning this. And I'll be honest with you, when this all started last year, when we're starting to go into the virtual world, in the beginning, I thought, I'm not going to learn any of this because we're going to be out of this in a few months and back at what we were doing. Well, after we weren't, I thought, oh my gosh, I really have to learn this. I really have to learn this platform. I have to learn these tools. And some of you may feel like I did. In the beginning, I was going from a physical world now to this virtual one. And I'm no different than anyone else when we're learning something new. And it was, change is great as long as we're initiating it. But if it is imposed, we don't like that. And so this was one of those imposed moments. And I just thought I didn't have to learn it because we'd be out of it. And boom, here we are. We're still there. So it does make sense to learn this, and it will make our lives go a lot more smoothly. So if you're looking at the screen on the bottom left-hand corner, there's the mute button. If you see a red diagonal slash through it, that means that you're muted, and that's a good thing. To the right of that is the stop video. Is your stop video icon. So it looks like a camera. If there's a red diagonal line through it, that means your video is off. That's a good thing, especially if you're doing something you don't want people to hear or see.
We have 6 minutes left in the hour.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So then we have our chat, which is to the right of that green, the lime green screen. That's how you open up your chat box to communicate. And then there's the reaction key, which is the last one. So if we were able to see each other and you had a question, you could have your hand up. There are all kinds of these little pictures to let people know where you are, and
Right.
you're using pictures in order to talk. So using the features is great. It's always great to be on mute, no matter what you're doing, especially if you are going to be on your keyboard. I do tell people to leave the keyboard alone unless they're really good at keep staying on mute, because you can hear it. It is pounding.
Yeah,
It
I
makes
bet
a
you
lot
guys
of
heard me
noise.
typing before. Apologies.
Yeah. And it's distracting. So
Yeah, it is.
I always say leave the keyboard alone. If you have to take notes, that's fine. Look down to take them, but remember to look up. So you don't want to be downcast the entire meeting, looking down, taking notes. You do want to engage with the camera, look down again, engage with the camera, because the camera is where everyone is. So remain on mute unless you are going to participate, and then you unmute yourself. You're on video because we're at a meeting. You want to remain on video. And
So
here's
do
the
you-
last
Okay.
rule, if you will. Please, I always tell people, stay seated. I say to stay seated unless you're mastered these and you know when you're muted and you know when your camera's off. You want to stay seated because it just is distracting to get up in front of a camera and walk off camera. So you want to turn off your video and then go get up if you need to. But also, we still have individuals who still come to business meetings half dressed. And remember, the rules that
God.
apply in the physical world are the rules that apply at home. And I
Yeah.
know being in your home gives us a sense of comfort and relaxation and informality. But when it becomes our office, we have to carry ourselves and dress, interact, speak, and show up like a professional. So you must always have bottoms on. Now, I do tell people sometimes they want to be comfortable. I say, all right, so look professional from the head to the waist. Of course, being Miss Cynthia, I would say, but you know what, you could still wear some nice pants. But if you don't want to and you want to wear sweats or more casual pants, I always tell people wear black. Because if you wear black, I can't tell what it is. I just know that you have on black bottoms. So never sit at the camera. And I know that I'm preaching to the choir right now, half dressed, because this can happen. So you have a gentleman who did not master his keys. So his camera was still on. He wasn't aware or paying attention, because that's what happens when we're at home. We're feeling comfortable and feeling relaxed. We kind of forget that we need to take a look at that mute and we need to look at our stop video, because now we're in a relaxing mood. We're not so much in a business mind, which is
Right.
why it's kind of important. If I dress the way and show up that way, chances are this won't happen. So I always tell people, please stay seated. And before you talk or move or do anything, look and check your mute and look and check your stop camera. So this gentleman just probably scared everyone. He got up, started doing this during a meeting, and everyone just lost it.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be the one on the internet with this picture. That's where I found it.
Well,
So stay seated.
we have 2 minutes left.
And I'm
And-
recapping.
Yeah, and we
Gotta-
also want to give out your prize.
Okay, I'll have it done in 1 minute.
Okay.
Here's the recap. Remember, working from home is here to stay. Your virtual tools are important. Choose and use them wisely. Staging does matter. Level up. Always use the 7 etiquette rules. And remember, we are all being judged by our virtual presence. We want to wow them. And this could be the difference between a 6-figure business and a 7. That's how important it is. And so here's my one answer to what do you do when something happens? Remain calm and mute and turn your video off.
Right.
If your child is behind you and just spilled a gallon of milk, mute yourself and turn the video off. So no matter what happens, you will always be safe if you mute yourself and turn the camera off. And so now Ruth is going to, and if we could come back on video, I'd like to show them the gift.
Yes.
Now she's going to select the winner. And I want to thank each and every one of you for staying and listening to me and also for participating. I'm hoping that I shared enough that was meaningful for you because you're not going to get this 60 minutes back, I know. So I'm hoping that I was able to give you
You're
a little bit of
terrific.
something.
Thank you. Our winner is TP.
TP. Oh, can
And
I show TP
Sure, go ahead.
what? Oh, my video is off. Here we are. Can everyone, I can't see everyone. Can we all see each other now? Oh, yes, I hear it.
There you are.
Everybody.
Hi.
So TP, these are called, and you may know them, these are called thought pops. So this is what you want to, why I go to
Are you there? You're muted. TP.
am I muted?
No, you're not. TP
Oh.
is.
This is what you won, and I've got them here. If you could stay after so I could get your address. I'm sending these to you, so thank you for coming. These are just little thought pops that you can use during your meeting, so you don't have to say anything or do much. You just pop them up here and let people know what's going on. So that is what you get to win today for coming to the show. And I want to thank each and every one of you for your time because I appreciate people's time. This is my email address, my phone number. Please feel free to call me if you have questions or things come to your mind after today. But I just, want to show up the best way you can, use your tools. And this, who knows, this may be your next big thing. You may end up loving this.
True.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
I also wanted to tell people that Russ, the big guy, is our next speaker in 2 weeks.
What is he going to speak on?
Russ, give us a couple words about what you're going to be talking about in a couple weeks.
Oh, we can talk about the 10 essential superpowers every entrepreneur needs to win the day. Do you know the superpowers are great for anybody, any professional or any teenager who hasn't been properly taught how to interact and communicate with other people and maybe needs a little more confidence and some tools that will help them grow.
All right.
Love
That's going to be
superpowers.
awesome. Russ is great. So,
And it's going to be in 3D.
oh, right. That's right.
Cool.
All right. So, all right, guys. If
Thank you so
you,
much, everyone.
I am at,
Have a great rest of the week.
I am at Ruth at confidentcareersearch.com. If you need to talk to me or want to tell me anything about today or have any speaker suggestions, I'll put it in the chat. Whoops, if I could spell it would be good. You can save the chat by using the 3 little dots. It says save chat at the top. All right. So TP, you want to share your contact information so we can get you your prize?
Oh, yes, thank you.
You can put it in the chat if you want to. Are you
Hey.
there?
Yep, I'm here. Sorry. I wasn't sure if it was safe to
Well,
unmute. I
Oh,
didn't
it's
want to
fine.
seem rude.
And I should turn off the recording.